Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. Well, we are approaching Q1, the end of Q1, and a lot of times this is where people are either moving forward with what their big bets were, or they're like, oops, maybe I need to think about course correcting, or maybe they're still not sure. So, anyway, for those of you who are leaders and you're about one quarter in, we're going to chat about what do you do when you think you may need to do a pivot. So we will get into that. But before we do, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And also want to give a shout out to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push Keynote for sponsoring today's episode. If you're curious, what does that mean? Hey, if you're in social media, there's been some little videos and stuff like that hyping it up. You have to give it a check out. Check out Nick Menard and nickmenard.com. Hello, Nick. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, the winners. Happy Monday, Will.
They're in the flesh, Mr. Menard. So, hey, we were talking about before we jumped on the recording, obviously, Q1. Holy smokes, what a year already. A lot of things happening that can have downstream impacts in a lot of ways. But when you're thinking about, hey, you're a quarter in, do you keep sailing to the same port or do you change direction? You want to share some high level thoughts for our winners?
I would say it depends on the wind.
Yeah.
No, but first of all, it's crazy. We're already at the end of Q1. I mean, I felt like we did the kickoff yesterday.
Yeah.
So most of you, when you have a leadership position or you own a business, what you do first, and when the year starts or at the end of the year before, you just put a plan together and you set the goal, the targets. You have a kickoff ready. You know the direction you're gonna go, and then end of Q1, it's time to check the progress and the results. Are they in line of what the expectation was, the prevision of the numbers are, or oops, I'm off, or we are off, or we are not going the right direction. So what should you do? Should you just scratch off and start from zero in another direction? Should you tweak something? Or should you just implement better or more coaching? Or maybe you don't have the right people. I mean, it can be a lot of things depending on your business and the company you're with. But I'm excited to talk about that today.
Yeah, I am too. And I think, when I think about the Q1, I like warm water in the pool. I do not like chilly water. And so, I have a solar heated pool, but I don't just plunge in. Like I dip my toe in because even at the temperature gauge, I'm like, is this the right temperature of water for me to go in? Because I do not want to be chilly willy. So anyway, it's kind of like with the Q1. It's like I'm dipping the toe in. Did we get the temperature right? Or is it a little too chilly or a little too warm? We'll find out. But anyway, welcome to one of our favorite segments,
Quotes and quips.
So here we go, folks. Now, this person's a little controversial. So regardless of what you think about him, doesn't mean his words don't have some merit. So Grant Cardone gave a quote, and his quote is, never lower your target, increase your actions. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, like you said, like him or not, doesn't mean that everything he does is bad or everything he does is good. Nobody does that. So, but I agree with him wholeheartedly about this quote. Because something I experienced a lot in my career in the past, definitely when I was starting, is, oh my God, I had that goal to attain. I'm so far off. I cannot get there anymore. Let's change everything after Q1. That's the worst you could do. The worst. I would encourage you to increase your goal or keep the goal the same, but never decrease. Definitely not after Q1. If you do that at the end of Q3, when you try different things and it's still there, then yes, because you need to keep the motivation of the team and yourself up. But Q1, definitely not. It can be so many different things. So I totally agree with Grant on that one, is assess the why. When you assess the why, you will understand, is the problem the coaching, the guidance, the skills of your people? Maybe you don't have the tools needed, or you thought you had, but you don't have, or you need to replace or change or adapt the tools. So it can be different things. So first, assess the why. What should we be doing in order to increase? How we can do that? By looking at the people who actually perform. Because if you didn't reach something, I'm pretty confident that some people in your business, in your industry, in your company, in your region, actually achieve it or overachieve it. Why? Why are they achieving, overachieving? And you know me, we worked together in the past. I do not believe a region is different from another. When you work in a company, it's always, oh yeah, but in my region, no, they're all human beings. They all go to the bathroom the same way. They all have 2 hands, 2 feet, or I hope. So yeah, no, I don't believe that the region, because you have like Canada or you have Europe or you have EMEA, you have totally different potential of growth. Maybe it's not the same rhythm, but you should be able to adapt in order to increase whatever you're doing. So listen to what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Look at those bottom performer or average performer, because nobody wants to be average or there's a problem. So what are they doing compared to the top performer?
Mm-hmm.
Then most of the time, the problem is in the coaching, the guidance. If it's a will and skill, we discussed that a few months back. We may revisit that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a will, then it's a bigger problem that we should be assessing very fast, because, not everybody are perfect for each role. And if it's a skill, then the coaching should be improving, or maybe we need to replace or change some tools. So that's the first thing I would say, but I will give the word to you based on the quote.
No, very astute guidance, and totally agree. I think so. I don't want to be redundant and repeat what you said, so I'll just share something a little slightly different. We talked in the past about momentum. The best way to start building momentum is through activity and taking action. And I can see it in my life. The things I don't take action on, not really getting a lot of momentum. The things I do take action on, I get momentum. So I began the year, as most people do, with our New Year's resolutions, right? And I decided, you know what, instead of having a midlife crisis and buying a Corvette, like, some people, the generation older than me always did, I'm like, I'm going to get back into shape. And at least going to start going that way. And I'm stuck with a routine. And my point is, there are times I grab those dumbbells and I'm like, I don't really want to do that this morning. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. Do I really want to get started? And I just trick my mind from Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule. I start counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I just start an exercise, and then boom, then I'm done. And I get it in and get some momentum going. It's the same with this quote. If you're stuck in a rut, activity is going to get you out of it, because work ethic and activity, in my opinion, is one of the biggest differentiators of success. You can have people who are more talented, more smart, better connected, better looking, better well-dressed. All that stuff doesn't matter. I will take the person who hustles 10 out of 10 times, because even if they're not as talented, not as smart, all blah, 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 they will get things going. And sometimes those people who seem to have everything sometimes get a little sloppy, right? They get a little lazy, maybe not as effective, because it's always quote unquote come easy. Give me the grinder. I will take the grinder 10 out of 10. They'll be coachable. They will put in the effort. And that's the difference. So if you're stuck in a rut, you're not hitting your numbers, you're not hitting the sales, one more phone call, one more email outreach, one more network connection to try to maybe get a warm introduction. Do that one more activity this day today, and you'll be surprised, if you consistently do that, how it will build up over time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. We are on the same page when it comes to that quote from Grant Cardone.
Yeah, it was a good one. Good one. All right. So now the quip. I don't know who this is. Do you know? Jack Penn?
No.
I don't know. Well, Jack Penn, thank you for this quip that we're going to use from you, but it is, one of the secrets of life is to make stepping stones out of stumbling blocks. So kind of the old life gives you lemons, make lemonade type of thing, but your thoughts on that quip?
No, I'm pretty sure rarely after a quarter you feel like, oh my God, everything I was thinking is wrong.
Mm.
So understand the why. It's the same thing. Understand why, what went wrong in there, and maybe a little tweak, a little 1% difference in what you're doing, your people are doing, your team and the peers are doing, or partners may make a huge difference. So don't throw the rocks,
Mm.
but polish them to make them actually working for whatever you need to achieve. So don't throw everything away. Just learn about what tweak, what little percent push can you change in order to make a difference at the end.
Yeah, 100%. When I read this, it made me think of, I think it was about a couple of months ago now. I sent out to my leadership team a short little 2-minute video from Jocko Willenick, and what he talks in that video. Whenever somebody complained about something, whatever, all he would respond was good. And he's like, oh, we didn't get these supplies. Good. We'll figure out another way to make something happen. Oh, we didn't get the assignment we wanted. Good. We'll be able to do that. Oh, we didn't achieve what we wanted. Good. We'll be able to learn from it. And I'm actually starting to do this now. I'm incorporating a little bit more and more. I'm like, good, because I think it's all about, what the quip was talking about is, nothing ever goes smoothly in a upward to the right vertical. Like it's choppy, sometimes even now it doesn't necessarily have to be massive peaks and valleys. Sometimes there's smaller peaks and valleys, but there's peaks and valleys. And it's like that with most things in life. So how are you going to view it? Are you going to view it with the mindset of a growth mindset? Like, these are learning opportunities. I'm going to apply the learnings and get better. Are you going to be like, oh, this is now feeding my self-defeatist attitude and you're not going to produce as much? Do yourself the favor and set aside that negative voice in your head. And depending on your personality, maybe get angry with it and just tell it, shut up. Shut up. I'm getting after it. No, it wasn't perfect. I'm going to be better because of it. I'm going to learn because of it. And to me, the stumbling blocks turning into stepping stones, that's like the key to life. It's just about learning, growing, and improving. And nobody's perfect. So.
Absolutely. No, I agree. We agree. Love those quotes and quips.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yep.
So when you're thinking about like little nuanced tweaks, you mentioned a number of things already. Like, is it a mindset thing? Is it a people thing? Is it a coaching thing? What are some of the criteria that you're looking at to like, yeah, we just need to stay the course, or like a saying I've been saying a lot lately, just let us cook, versus actually making, a notable tweak?
Yeah. So good question. So based on what we discussed beginning of the year about setting the stone, setting the stone for the year, kickoff, etc., etc. That's why it's so important when you have a target or a goal for your year to implement like a target for 6 months, even 3 months. So after the first quarter, you can assess, like I mentioned. So there are 3 options. Or you exceed it, great, celebrate, we made it, and look, if you exceed drastically, then look at how you can, apply that for the rest of the year, so you can maybe tweak it to make it more, like challenging to attain, but by stating to your team that the goal was being put beginning of the year is the same, but let's challenge ourselves to get better. The second is that you're just there. You are there. Well, great, but the exercise will be the same for me as if you are lower, because you want to understand why some people, if you are in just where you should be, it means that there are some people who are above and some people are below. So how can you elevate the bottom performers? All right, in order to increase everything and to overachieve at the end of the year. So that's option number 2. And option number 3 is, whoa, we are below. We are below. So why are we below? If everybody in the organization in your region are below, then probably we should be looking in the mirror. Probably we didn't set the right target. Doesn't mean that we need to change them. I agree with Grant Cardone. We don't change them. But we can have a different kind of conversation in order to see what is actually realistic to reach, but we don't change the ultimate goal.
Mm.
So then again, we learn from the top performer and we see how we can improve. The most important when you are a leader, when you have to talk to a group of individual contributor or a group of other leaders, is to provide the feedback of what are you doing. Communication is key, as we already discussed multi-time in the podcast. So communicate what steps are you going to take in order to understand the why we are there. Make sure that the whole team understand those steps that you're taking. So when it's time to get the results about the why from the data team or from the partners you have, and put all that together. When you present that to the team, communicate, here are my findings. So what do you think? And that's that coaching by asking, telling by asking.
Mm.
Based on those numbers, those feedback, what do you think we should adapt or change to make a bigger impact Q2? So you let your team come up with a solution, because usually when you see those numbers or you see those reasons that came back to you, you know exactly what should be happening next.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So by doing so, you let them take the lead on what to do. So you leave the ownership on them, because they will figure out what to do. Until you hear what you need to hear, you need to be able to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the best way to increase, if we are great, to be even better. If we are target, to exceed expectation. And if we are below target, to reach the target. So I know there are more ways, but that this is what I would do within my region. But I will let you build up on this.
Actually, I'm going to do a slightly different take, because I loved everything you said. I'm going to take a self-reflective take. What I mean by that is, if you're a leader and the first quarter has maybe not been as fantastic as you thought it would be, the first thing I would challenge you to do is self-reflect. What was your vision that you set at the beginning of the year? What were your big bets? What were the milestones? Now reflect on your communications. Reflect back on the meetings you had. Reflect back on the emails you did. Reflect back on any presentations, one-on-one conversations. How congruent were you with chatting about things that were tied to that vision, those big bets, those milestones? Or did you turn into Baskin Robbins and it was the flavor of the week and you got 31 different flavors, and maybe, with good intentions, of course, your mixed messaging put people off track? Maybe you had senior leadership throw some things down your direction. Did you filter it? I mean, don't get me wrong. When my boss gives me the things that I need to achieve, I will make sure I do everything in my control to make that happen. That doesn't necessarily mean I need to be talking to my teammates about it. People are reporting to me. Maybe it's subtle, or maybe it's like, for example, if you're trying to hit a certain amount of sales or a certain measure of success, usually it requires a number of actions before that. Are you staying congruent with those actions? And if you do the right thing, our CEO is famous for saying, great results will follow. Are you being congruent, or are you being part of the problem, where it just seems like everything is hair on fire, everything is reactive, everything is a fire drill? I mean, again, we talk a lot about culture and the environments you build. These sort of things play a part. And on the flip side, if things are going well, do a post-mortem on your first quarter communications as well. Did you stay congruent? Did you build upon the messaging to inspire both the hearts and the minds of the people who you're teaming up with? Did you have better stakeholder relations? We talked about that a few weeks ago, and that enabled your team to maybe have a smoother path forward. So, I think your coaching guidance was spot on. For me, it's more the leader and reflecting. Before you go changing anything, do you need to change? Because maybe you went off track a little.
I love that. And again, that's not mutually exclusive.
Right.
You know, like when you do the self-reflection, it's actually totally true, because usually we always look at others before looking at ourselves. So I agree. Like, look back about what could you have done better, definitely communication wise, like you said, but what the leader as a leader, what could I have done better? You know, but when you do that, then after that, you can implement different things. And I think the feedback piece is key, and let them figure it out the why, while you give everything for them to actually figure it out very quickly. But then the accountability piece is in their hands instead of being in yours, because then, you know, they will not work as hard or as smart as if it comes from them directly. So yeah, we totally agree with it. Do you have an example based on your years of experience? You're not young, you're too young anymore.
25 in the money.
Do you have an example of a time in your career when the Q1 didn't go as planned, and where you can explain to our winners maybe a step that you took that made a positive impact after whatever you did after learning this first step?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think there was one year where the team I was leading, we got off to a slow start, and it was actually the beginning of the year is the busiest time of the year for this particular group I was leading. It's like they get a bunch of activities in the first January, February. And we weren't really improving much compared to where we were at that same time last year. And what we found was there was the messaging was clear and consistent. What ended up being suboptimal was some of the processes. And so for them to get the certain activities and to act on them, that was one issue. And, we had RA Boss, who we had on our show a few months ago, who's a black belt lean sensei. If you need anything in terms of driving efficiency and effectiveness, look up RA Boss on LinkedIn.com, or send an email to Two for the Win. We can put you in contact with them. But we found out that there was 131 steps to what was thought to be an 8-step process. But when you did the handoffs and all the things that RE does, where you write a Post-it note anytime something like that happens, there was a ton of waste. And we worked on that. We had a whole board filled with Post-it notes, of the big conference room whiteboard filled with Post-it notes. And we got it down to 31. And we ended up accelerating big time. And so we made an adjustment. We really optimized the processes, and that helped. The other thing was people felt they weren't getting the support to escalate to our partners, who were causing some blockages and getting that done. And that was a good feedback that I took for myself as well as my leaders. And we actually did, this is back when we had a little bit more budget, and we went off to a hotel for a half-day workshop talking about how do we talk? How do we put these talk tracks in place and put it together? So those two things in conjunction, one was big. That process piece was actually a big change, but it was necessary. The other one was more subtle. Just how do we get more stakeholder buy-in so that we could implement it better? And that was one year that I ended up getting the highest rating you can get at the company. I've only had that happen twice, and that was one of them. And it started off with the year was horrible.
There we go. So that's a great example to showcase that the Q1 doesn't dictate your year. It's just the way you handle the end of Q1 that may dictate the rest of your year. So make sure to reflect on what you did. Make sure to understand what you could have been doing differently, but also how to coach your organization to actually get a better start of Q2 and going from there. The only thing I will add, because we're almost on time, it's going fast when we have fun.
Definitely.
So what I would recommend as well and it's something I saw in my career in general, in different company and organization I work with. When things are not starting the way it should, there is some people pull the fire alarm and starts changing everything and adding more things to make it better. And usually my experience tells me that it's the opposite of what you should be doing. Instead of looking at what can we do more, maybe what can we take off the plate of people who actually handling customers and clients, and how can they focus of actually doing that one piece of the job that will make the biggest difference, the biggest impact for the region, for the organization. So a lot of time, less is more. It doesn't mean less work. It means less focusing on things that may not have the same level of value at that time. And then we can revisit that later on in the year when things are getting better to implement some more. But don't think that you need to rip everything off, change, or add more stuff because that's going to help. It's probably going to bring the temperature of the motivation of the people down. And that's not what you want to do when you want to impact positively, like number one, maybe not where they should be. So that would be my advice.
I love that. You know how I feel about too many internal meetings. I think people sometimes get their feeling of importance by how many meetings they can host. It's like, no, please stop. And I love that because I think a lot of times, more often than not, it's stay the course. If you did your planning on the front end before, we had the year kickoff and all that stuff, if you really did it well, 9 times out of 10, nothing changed that dramatically that would cause you a major course shift. Now, sometimes there is, like obviously right now with the federal government, the executive orders that's having an
COVID.
Yeah, COVID, same thing. And those things have an impact. So those, you may have to adjust because you didn't see it coming. But for the most part, that's not the case. Those things are more the exceptions than the rule. Less is more. If you really believe in it, it's stay the course. To your earlier point, get the feedback from folks. Why do you think we are where we are? What could we have done different? We set out to do X, Y, and Z. Where do you think we've done really well with that? Where do you think we need to improve? Having those questions and those conversations. But a lot of times it's just more tweaking the execution. It's 1% more. It's a 1% push, making that extra call, reducing a step to make things more efficient, changing a step that makes it a little bit higher quality. It's usually not big, massive changes, and you don't need to talk about it to death.
No, like the stone, polish it instead of replacing it.
That's right.
Love it.
100%. I love that analogy. So, any last parting shots of wisdom you want to share with our winners?
No, I think that we can definitely do a second episode on this because there's so much we can share on this.
Yeah, definitely will. So thank you, winners, for tuning in today. Please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow For the Win on your favorite platform. Thanks again to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push for sponsoring today's episode. And we will see you next week. And hopefully you will be reflecting on a good Q1 and building momentum in a Q2. Take care, winners.
Bye.